Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in.
She has a wonderful personality. She really does.
You are listening to Talking with Gloria.
Let's take a walk on the wild side.
With your host, Gloria Ponziano.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Talking with Gloria. I'm your host, Gloria Ponziano, and we apologize for the late start, but it was the holiday, so we're all kind of waking up from it. And we had a couple of technical difficulties. We've made some new changes, not only in the Clearwater studio, but in our brand new studio over in Tampa. You are listening to this on TalkWad Network. And joining me today in the studio, I'm so happy, but I'm also so apologetic for some of the technical problems we've had, is Michelle Penn. Hi, Michelle. How are you?
Hi, Gloria. Wonderful. Nice to meet you.
It was a crazy 5 minutes, wasn't it?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, I had explained prior to your arrival that I really didn't want to do too much research on your book because I always like my interviews to be things that I'm asking for the very first time.
Right.
Now, Eckhart Tolle is obviously somebody I admire, and so that caught my attention right away when I saw that on Facebook, and I believe you joined a group that I was a part of.
Yes.
And as I began to look at some of your photographs, I'm like, oh my gosh, these are not photoshopped. And so I started doing a little research anyway, because photography is just something I love. It's never anything I've gotten involved in. But your first book that I noticed was Peace in the Present Moment.
Yes.
How in the world did you get started in that? Tell me the story behind that.
Well, it was an amazing story because it was Eckhart Tolle that changed my life. I had first read The Power of Now, which was his first
Me too.
book. And it really did change me. I went through horrible experience before that seems like a lot of people who become awakened have that, as a friend of mine says, drop to your knees moment.
Yes.
And I was in a verbally abusive relationship. I was married for 14 years and stayed in it until he threatened to kill me.
I was just saying you're having a moment now, I think.
Not to go back there.
No, but
it was very emotional, just violent rage, and it's what made me leave him, which Eckhart Tolle taught me was something to be grateful for.
You mean through his book?
Through his book.
Okay.
That if it wasn't for my ex-husband doing that, I wouldn't have left.
Good point.
And I wouldn't have found who I am. I wouldn't be the person I am today. And I was still having problems just feeling guilty and for the kids and blaming my ex for everything that had happened. And it wasn't working for me.
Right.
And
blame wasn't working for you.
Right. Eckhart Tolle taught me to be in the present moment, to be grateful for what I do have, and how important forgiveness is for me, not for him, but for me. I read his second book, A New Earth, and the first chapter was called The Flowering of Human Consciousness.
That's the one that Oprah did the show on, the whole series.
Exactly,
Yeah.
which I saw that whole webcast thing. And,
Me too. Half the population, I guess, did.
I think so. I think he helped a lot of people. I took pictures of flowers. I moved to Florida. I didn't know why I was drawn to them so deeply. It was it was a spiritual awakening, but I didn't really realize what was happening to me. And by reading that chapter, Flowering of Human Consciousness, he was in my head. It was like he explained to me why I took pictures of flowers. And
Was it because it was like you blossoming?
yes,
The real you was coming out and blossoming?
because I could feel that stillness that I never knew before by looking at the flower and photographing it. I felt in the moment. And I felt for the first time that stillness, that quiet, where I had inspired ideas. I had it's just inspired thoughts. It was something so different for me. And when he talked about flowers and talked about how flowers can change you and bring you into the present moment and awaken you, and I realized that's what I'm doing. That's where the flowers came from. There were no flowers on this earth before I met Eckhart.
In your eyes,
In my eyes.
that you noticed, right?
Right. It was like they all of a sudden bloomed everywhere. And wherever I go, there are these gorgeous flowers that I was drawn to.
The real you had awakened and now was being oh, great. They're pulling them up on screen. Wonderful. Bless your heart. You got them. Put that picture back up, Willard. I love that. Wasn't that the one? Was that the one that
Oh,
you? Yes. Yes.
yes, for
You-
the cover of the book.
That's beautiful.
Thank
And
you.
of course, none of your work is photoshopped.
Right. None of
And
it.
so go ahead with the story. I'm so moved by this because I love hearing every person that awakens.
Yes.
I mean, I truly believe that all of humanity has been asleep for thousands of years. And when I say asleep, I don't mean obviously in the literal sense.
Unconscious.
Right. They're just, well, they think they're conscious. That's the thing. I think because I grew up in a religious faith
Hmm.
and I really thought I was conscious. I really thought that I was connected to God. I'm not saying that I'm not. I believe that I always was.
Hmm.
Okay. I believe everybody is, but that's, I'm not here to knock or discuss anybody's religious convictions or beliefs. But for me, I am so drawn to people who recognize that at one time they were sleeping, even
Right.
if they were in a religious faith or whatever. And it's amazing to me how spirit uses different things as metaphors for your awakening. And for you, it was flowers. And from that, you began to take these gorgeous pictures. My gosh, I mean,
There was something about the way I took the picture. I really wanted to take the center of the flower
look at this.
where you can see just those little tiny hairs. You can see the little teeny flowers inside that you didn't even know were there.
Mm-hmm.
And I would capture that image, blow it up on my computer so you can really see
Stop
even
right there,
closer.
like this.
Yes. Where those little the little yellow flowers and
Things that we would not normally see otherwise.
right. You couldn't see that with the naked eye. And the center, which looks like blueberries,
Yes.
really isn't. But nature is amazing. I felt like I was capturing the soul of the flower, and it was bringing me to my soul. I was being introduced to my soul and my presence. And
Like the spirit was pointing out to you even the teeniest tiny thing that you would never notice about yourself is always recognized by spirit or the universe or God or whatever people choose to call that,
yes,
that divine intelligence
yes,
notices every little speck, and you seem to have been able to capture it like that
yes.
with your lens.
And even
Amazing.
now, looking at it, I get chills when I look at these flowers
I
because
know.
I see so much more and I want everybody else to see that too. I wanted to share that. I wanted to awaken people who would never think about flowers. So Eckhart Tolle talks about flowers. He talks about meditating on flowers. He compares them to life. He talks about Buddha even doing a sermon holding up a flower.
Mm-hmm.
And when I read that, I had this intense inspiration that I have to do a book with Eckhart Tolle. That if he sees my flowers, he is going to be as moved as I was by his words. Be-
Wow.
My flowers were an exact representation of what he talked about. And I thought, why doesn't he have flowers in his books? He talks about them. He could have a
Mm-hmm.
flower on this page and you could meditate on the flower right there.
But the book had already been written, so how did you get his attention?
Well, it's amazing how when you put that intention out to the world and you believe
Mm-hmm.
in it, but not only believe it, feel it.
Feel it.
And I just declared, I said, this is done. I knew when he
Mhm.
saw my pictures, he would be moved.
Right.
So I really just prepared and lived as if it was going to happen. So
Mhm.
if it was going to happen, I should do a
Be
book,
prepared.
make a
Be
mock-up
ready.
book. So I did. I got my flowers. I got quotes from A New Earth, and I put a mock-up book together. I had it bound and didn't know what was going to happen, but the next thing that happened is I went to a Louise Hay conference.
Mm-hmm.
And outside the conference, there were exhibition booths
Mm-hmm.
where they have all kinds of spiritual gifts and things. They had one table was candles, big candles, 16 by 12.
Wow.
And they had essential oils in them,
Mm-hmm.
which really intrigued me. And they were beautiful candles. So I ordered one,
Mm-hmm.
had it shipped. When it arrived, it was the wrong color, which was no big deal. I called the
Mm-hmm.
woman and she left me a message and said, things happen for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about it. And we connected, and I agree too. Things do happen for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't imagine the reason the candle came in wrong, but
Mm-hmm.
we just started talking, and we had this incredible spiritual connection. Her name was Gloria, and she had written an incredibly powerful book called A Victim No More. And she said to me, I told her about my intention, about what I wanted to do. And she saw my flowers. I had showed them to her at the conference, and she
Mhm.
was moved. And she said, my publisher just did a book, a children's book with Eckhart Tolle. Bet you he has a connection. I'm going to call him and see if he would look at your work.
There you go.
So she did. And the publisher got back to me and said, yes, he would love to see some of my things, but keep it short and sweet because he's got manuscripts floor to ceiling just this month to review. But he would look at this as a
Mhm.
favor to Lori.
Mhm.
So I emailed him some photos and my idea. And rather quickly, he got back to me, like a day or two. Sorry. And he loved it. He loved the idea. He loved the flowers. He loves Eckhart Tolle. They had published also Conversations with God with Neil
Mhm.
Donald Walsh. They
Yes.
were a very spiritual company.
Mhm.
He said that he would be happy to put me with other authors, but there was no way we could get Eckhart Tolle because he's Eckhart Tolle. I mean, New York Times bestseller and this spiritual god.
Mhm.
And I said, I really, really believe that we can change the world together.
Right. Somehow or
And
another.
this collaboration would be something incredible.
Mhm.
And he said, well, you know what? Why don't you send me that mock-up book that you did so I can have a good look at it? And the mock-up book is not here.
I was going to say, is it one of these?
It's not one of those because it was turned into
Okay.
Peace in the Present Moment.
Okay. Okay.
But because I'll explain why we also added Byron Katie. I was
Another one I love.
me too. But I was not thinking of her at the time. I was all Eckhart Tolle. And so I don't know what made me say to the publisher, how about I fly up and hand you the book in person. I really wanted to see
Atta
his
girl.
face.
I love it.
I wanted to see that reaction as he turned the pages. I wanted to be there and discuss it with him. And he said, that's a great idea. He said, let's do it when the CEO is here. And we did. I live in Florida. He was in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
I flew up in the cold, which I hate the cold, but I did it anyway, and met with them. The reaction was exactly what I wanted. Them looking through it. They loved it. But the CEO and himself and the marketing director were there, and they all said, can't get Eckhart Tolle. We can't, but we can.
Let me stop you there.
Mm-hmm.
I find it amazing throughout my whole life journey when I talk to people, myself included. This has happened numerous times, but I find that it more and more people come across my path that this happens to. I almost feel like the universe or God or whatever you decide to call this higher intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think that these no answers come to us for a reason, much like because I love gardening and I often use gardening as metaphors. And whenever I built one of my houses out in the country, I had to put in new trees. And these new trees, because we were basically in a cornfield, because it was a new development, we would get a lot of strong westerly wind. And if you didn't stake the trees were going to grow bent over to the east.
Mm-hmm.
And so you had to stake them. And when my neighbors did the same thing, they didn't stake theirs. And of course, their trees grew that way. But the point I'm trying to make is the resistance does come against the tree. But if you stake them, it causes the roots. Every time the pressure of the wind comes against that new sapling, that new tree, the roots are forced to go down deeper.
Stronger.
And as it goes down deeper, it becomes stronger. Exactly. And I truly believe that if we would understand that in our personal lives and in our spiritual lives and in our awakening lives, that no is not no. No is resistance. That's all it is. And that resistance is even designed, like the tree, to make us dig our heels into the sand and just say, I'm not letting go. I've staked my ground and I'm standing put on this.
Absolutely.
That's what you did.
Absolutely. And you believe it. I knew this was going to happen. Something deep inside me was convinced. I had faith and I felt it as if it were true. I started pretending
Mm-hmm.
that the book was already in Barnes & Noble.
Mm-hmm.
It was already on Amazon.com. And how did that feel? I felt that feeling.
Right.
And continued that. Didn't let anybody who said to me, it'll never happen. I never even
Entertain the thought.
right,
Right.
because it was going to happen. So we are up in Virginia, and I'm just pouring my heart out and my spirit and really explaining to them why we just have to get this in front of Eckhart. I know you say it's impossible, and but I don't think it is impossible. So they had a meeting and they came back in and they said, well, you are so sure. We are going to send your mock-up book to Eckhart Tolle's publisher, Namaste, in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
If the publisher likes it and thinks it would be something that Eckhart would be interested in, she will then show it to Eckhart. Then and only then. But I thought,
You're still a step closer.
great. and I knew great. This was it was going to happen. She was going to show it to him and he was going to love it. So we just continued. I waited weeks. I waited months and I wasn't hearing anything. But for some reason, I didn't waver at all.
Sometimes you just have to put it out of your mind, because keeping it in your mind, sometimes, especially if the mind is not going in the direction of the creative flow, which is what you were trying to do, was
Mhm.
create this event to happen. it's best to get your mind on something else.
Actually, I didn't do that. I actually did keep my mind on it. It wasn't, and the way I kept my mind on it was being positive in it, not
hmm
saying, "Where's the phone call?" and worrying and saying, "Oh, I got to think about something else because I don't want to think about that." I actually consciously thought about it, meditated about it. I listened to Abraham and Wayne Dyer and Louise Hay and Eckhart Tolle, and I lived this every day. I lived it as if. So I didn't want to not think about it.
Right.
I talked about it.
Right.
I told everybody this was happening.
hmm
Um, it did take 2 years for this all to happen. And everybody kept asking me, "So, what's going on with that? What's going on with that? You haven't heard. You haven't heard."
Still waiting. Still waiting.
But I was positive. I said,
hmm
"Yes, I haven't heard yet, but it's done.
hmm
It's just in the process.
hmm
I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I'm assuming it's all great."
hmm
So I kept it in my forefront. I did keep it in my mind because I wanted to feel that every day. I felt that that would raise my vibration.
hmm
That, if your listeners know what that is,
hmm
and be in that place.
Right.
And I
Now
was,
let me be clear on this though, on why I said that,
Mhm.
because there are people that can't always stay in that moment. They can't always stay positive. That's why I said if you
Yes,
can't and your mind starts going like, well, maybe they're not, oh, maybe it's just not going to happen. If your mind goes there, that's when it's best to change your thoughts and get it onto something completely different, as long as you take it away from the negative stream of, well, it's not going to happen. But you
exactly.
were able to keep it in the positive, which is fine,
Right.
But if you can't, then change your thought.
Because, yes, there were obviously small times, there were times that it would creep in, and you would have to consciously change your thought, not even related to this.
Right.
Totally think of something else that you are grateful for.
hmm
And what is it that you do have that feels so good in your life? And to keep that vibration up, to not go to that negative place.
Right. Right.
So, as positive as I was, yes, I'm sure there were many times that that was the case. Um, so I was in Best Buy and I got a phone call from the publisher, and he said, "You sitting down?" I said, "Well, I'm in Best Buy and there's nowhere to sit, but please talk." He said, "We are on second base and the publisher loves it and has agreed to show it to Eckhart."
Oh, wow.
And
How did you stay in Best Buy and not let out a scream?
um, it was very difficult. But remember that I also was believing that this was true. So I didn't feel really that different because I already felt that the confirmation was coming. It was just, when was it going to come?
Right.
So now, of course, we had to wait for Eckhart Tolle to see it. He was
Mhm.
in Australia and he was traveling, and it was taking him some time before he got back to Canada. And so, but it was okay
Mhm.
because I knew. I knew. And 6 months later, I get a phone call, and my publisher says they are going to do it. He loves it. Eckhart Tolle was moved by my flowers, like I knew he would be. And he agreed. He said he would love to do the book, love to do the quotes from here. It was his suggestion to use Byron Katie. He said that their teachings were similar. They had
Mhm.
never collaborated before.
Mhm.
She talks about loving what is, he talks about the power of now. And I thought, great, she has inspired me tremendously. Of course,
Right.
if you want to include her, excellent. So we went through that process of contacting her because we didn't know whether it was going to be okay. This was just his idea.
Boy, you got a double bubble there, didn't you? I love this
I
story.
really,
Oh my
really
gosh.
did. I even saw Byron Katie. She came to Sarasota, where I live. She came to Sarasota High School, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago, and I saw her speak there.
Oh my gosh.
And I had seen Eckhart Tolle speak before, and I thought, wow, not only am I going to be reaching out to Eckhart Tolle fans, but now we have Byron Katie fans
Right.
that will also get to enjoy this inspiration.
Yes.
So it was going to be done. And we, back and forth with pictures and different quotes and different layouts. And they showed me what they were going to do and the name of the book and then who was going to do the forward. And it was incredible, exciting. Everything was great. And he,
Yeah, I'm trying to get our
I can see because we still have the book up there.
yeah, and I'm trying to get the producer's attention and not doing a very good job of it right now. So, but do continue. I'm sorry.
No problem.
I love this book anyway, but we have some other pictures I want to show here, but obviously he can't hear us. So, how did after he contacted you, then what? I mean, did you come
So-
up with this cover or did they?
They came up with a cover. They chose which picture they wanted to use on the cover. And they also, I had sent them the pictures. They decided which pictures they wanted to use. And then he decided which quotes would go with which pictures,
I see.
which was wonderful because it meant to me that he really had to look at that and think about it. And
Mhm.
so
Be inspired by each photograph.
Exactly. So,
How did this book right here, dance? Well, kind of dark in here. Dance in the
Dance in the Garden.
garden. How did you get this started? Oh
Well,
my gosh!
what happened is after Peace in the Present Moment came out.
Hmm.
First of all, quickly, let me just say before I answer your question, about 6 months into doing the book, I got a phone call from the publisher, from the CEO,
Okay.
saying we're canceling the book deal
What?
because of the economy. A
Mm.
full color book would be too much. They just didn't think people would buy it. They didn't think that the cost would be worth it. And I got off the phone and thought, this just is not true.
Right.
I wouldn't
You gotta
accept it.
stay. You gotta stay your course.
Right. And I actually decided to prove to the universe that I knew it wasn't over.
Mm-hmm.
I bought peaceinthepresentmoment.net.
Oh.
So I knew that was going to have to use that website one day. And I called him back and he let me talk. And I really talked from my heart and said really everything I had said before, but how important this was. And this isn't just any book. This is not a photo book. This is Eckhart Tolle, and we're going to be reaching so many people. So he changed his mind.
Tell me how did it come about? Because I've seen your Facebook, and I've seen Eckhart Tolle. I'm assuming that's in your house, or were you in his house?
I was at a retreat. I went to a
Okay.
retreat, Omega Institute, and this was in his suite.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, because I hadn't met with him personally, and I wanted, obviously, to meet him.
Mm-hmm.
So I went on this 4-day retreat, and I knew I was going to see him. But there were so many guards around him and his manager and people, and they said, nobody sees Eckhart Tolle. He doesn't even sign books. He doesn't see anybody. So I handed his manager the Peace in the Present Moment book, and I said, this is me, Michelle Penn, and I really think Eckhart would be very disappointed if he found out I was here and he couldn't meet me.
Mm-hmm.
So
point.
I don't know where that came from, but it was a great thing because it really did hit the manager, and he said he would talk to Eckhart.
Good point, he says. You probably just saved my neck.
So the next day I saw him. He says, Eckhart's been really tired. I haven't had a chance to talk to him yet, but let me wait till tomorrow. I'll talk to him tomorrow. But I told everybody at the retreat that I was going to be talking to him.
Mhm.
I told everybody. And eventually, the third day, the manager called me over and he said, I spoke to Eckhart and he would love to meet with you. He would like to do it at the end of the retreat so he could be in the present moment with you and really hear my story. He wanted to hear how I got him.
Right.
So we did. I went up to his suite and we sat on his couch and we just discussed the book. We discussed how it happened. He said it was his word. He says miraculous how you
Right.
reached me because nobody can reach him. Lots of people send him things. Lots of people do things.
So he had to appreciate your tenacity.
I guess so. Yes. And he talked to me about the same thing, how he was trying to even get a hold of Oprah by sending his book to Oprah,
Mhm.
and how he realized how difficult it was to reach her because she didn't get his book through him. He sent her the book, but he heard nothing back.
Mm-hmm.
Turned out that Meg Ryan bought the book as a gift for Oprah. And that's when she fell in love with it and decided that she wanted to meet Eckhart and started that whole thing. So he was just saying it was really miraculous. I mean, he says people can't get to me. And I told him the story from start to finish about the candle and about my dream and my inspiration and it being canceled and about knowing
Mm-hmm.
he would connect with it.
Right.
And I was really in the present moment with him.
I think, Willard, are you able to hear me? I'd like to see some more pictures. We'd like to show our viewers some more pictures. If not, then just put us back on studio so that our listeners are not just looking at blank space. I'd like them to see our beautiful guest. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No problem. So,
Now, let me ask you something. Going back to just Michelle, okay? I mean,
Mhm.
because it's a fabulous story, and we'll pick up on that as well. And your pictures are absolutely stunning. I see them every day on Facebook because I subscribe to your pictures. And for all my listeners out there, if you have not, you recommend they go to you, Michelle Penn, or Peace in the
peace
Present
in the
Moment.
present moment.
Peace in the Present Moment, where you can see all of her work. I mean, just your photographs. Now, where do you get most of these photos? Do you get most of them in Sarasota? Maybe Shelby Gardens,
I
or
get
just
a
out and
lot
about?
from Sarasota. I do go to Selby Gardens, and that's been incredible inspiration for me. It's so beautiful here. How lucky we are to have that here.
Mm-hmm.
But I do take them everywhere I go. The picture on the cover of Dance in the Garden is from St. Bart's. So
Really?
water lily that was at our hotel. If I'm in Boston and there are flowers there, I have my camera with me always. And just for that one moment that you see that flower that you have to take the picture of.
Right.
So it's really everywhere. Once a year, I go to the Epcot International Flower Show. They have 100,000 flowers there.
Oh my gosh!
And it is the most
Did they have to send?
gorgeous.
Did they have to send people in after you to bring you home?
More or less, because what a high
Right.
to go in there. And I would sometimes bring people with me. I realize I really need to do this alone because nobody really has the patience of going from flower to flower. They sort of want to see Epcot,
Yes.
and I really want to see the flowers.
Right.
But
But your call
Really?
is different. Your mission, your purpose is different.
Yes.
And so unless somebody has that same, which thank God none of us are the same. We're
Mhm.
all unique and different. I don't think anybody could appreciate it like until you bring it to us. Now, let me see if I can get this out of the way because I don't know if our viewers are seeing that. There we go. Now, we okay? The producer's giving me the thumbs up. Okay, we're okay. Now, let's go back to because I always like to know the backstory behind people, and I interview authors and photographers and all kinds of people, and let's tell them first of all where they can get your books.
They can go to my website, which is peaceinthepresentmoment.net.
Net, remember that,
Yes,
people. .net.
net. And yeah, I've got
Connect
all the
with you
books
on
on there.
Facebook
You
too.
can Amazon.com, Barnes and Noble. So you can get them online, but may as well get them through my website because I can sign them for
Yes,
you.
exactly. I always tell people the same thing. My books are any place books are sold, but you're not going to get them autographed, and you'll get them faster if you go through. And not only that, but I believe in supporting the authors themselves. And when you go
Mhm.
through their website, you are really showing your support. It's kind of like shopping locally.
Right.
I believe in shopping locally in your area, and it's the same thing with authors. If you're going to buy a book, you know, okay, so you'll save a couple of bucks on Amazon, but you're not really helping the author in support.
Exactly.
I just really think let's cut out the middleman and just go straight to the source. That's my personal belief. Let's go back though to your story because and I hope you're okay with that because I like to know the not just the inspiration, but some of the battles that people wage and have to wage in their lives that bring them because what we're doing here is we're showing our listeners and they're listening and seeing they're seeing a finished product and they're like, oh well, that's her, she's lucky or she's attractive or she was just in the right place at the right time or whatever.
Right.
People
Right.
tend to rationalize what they think is success and how it became that way.
Mhm.
And I like people to understand the backstory. And obviously, you've got some story there that made you, what gave you the impetuous, what gave you the strength to get out of this situation that you were in, this marriage that was abusive in any way, shape, or form? Because there are a lot of people, the last show that I had on in December, I had a lot of charities on for the whole month. And the last one was on violence, home violence, domestic violence.
Mhm.
And it was a very disturbing program for me. It took me a couple of days to be able to shake it because I am very empathetic and I pick energy up pretty easily. And it was just it was a hard show to do, but it was a necessary show because there are women out there that need a safe haven.
Mhm.
So here you are in a situation similar.
Yes, I actually
What
saw part of that show,
did you? It was
and the beginning of it just tore me up.
it
It
very
it was hard to listen to.
It was, and I don't like I said, I don't do shows like that at all,
Mhm.
but it was for the month was for charities,
Mhm.
and I took a reader's poll. So I wanted to know what the people in the community, what they wanted to come on
Right.
the show, and
Right.
that seemed to be a really, really hot thing. And so CASA obviously are getting quite a few calls now, and so anyway, it was necessary. But back to you,
Mhm.
how did you get the strength to pull yourself together to say, you know what, enough's enough. I don't deserve this, and you had to face fear. You had children.
Mhm.
How did you? What were the steps that you took to get out of that situation? What light bulb went off in your head to say, I deserve better than this. What this is not what was intended for me.
Um, the big light bulb, and I'll back up after, but of course, the big light bulb was him threatening to kill me. Um, and we, he, like I said, very verbally abusive. Every time something would come up, um, he would say, "If this happens again, I'll go to therapy."
Mhm.
But that was 14 years of that.
Yes.
And basically, I walked on eggshells every day because you're afraid of what you're going to say and what kind of reaction you're going to get. And um, it was almost like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing where
What
his
kind of moods are going to
is
be in next?
right, and on a dime, his face could change, his personality, he just changed. And I started reading a book, The Verbally Abusive Relationship, which I would recommend to anybody who
Is it an
thinks
abusive relationship?
absolutely.
Okay.
The sad thing is I underlined almost every line in the book. It was me. It was
Wow.
like she was living in my house with my ex-husband and knew what he was doing and knew how he was messing with my mind and how controlling he was and how the horrible things that he would say and put me down. And um, since he wouldn't go to therapy, I did.
Okay.
And I think that that's such an important thing. I never knew that before because before that I hadn't been. And it opened my eyes to the fact that this is not normal.
Right.
I
Because you
I
live in
thought
this.
it was normal.
I was going to say, I bet if you live in it long enough, you probably think that it's
I
normal.
married out of college and was with him for 14 years and thought that this is the way it is to be married.
Okay. We'll take it in a second.
And I think that the therapy opened my eyes to the fact that I don't have to live like that. She asked me, the first question she asked me was, "What do you like to do?" And I didn't have an answer. I said, I haven't done what I like to do for so long. I do what my husband wants to do. And it really got me thinking of the me who I used to be, the person who loved to dance, the person who, I was outgoing. Where was that person?
Wow.
And I started standing up for myself. But the problem with that is, and I don't, it gets worse.
Yeah.
You stand up for yourself and you think that you're being strong and it escalates.
Right.
Everybody says, oh, it's going to escalate to physical violence, but you don't believe that.
Right.
You don't ever believe that's going to happen. And I thought, well, he's not hitting me.
Right.
So it's just the emotional abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't take it as seriously, but you need to.
Right.
And the night he threatened to kill me, I was in bed and he got on top of me, hovering over me, half an inch from my face, screaming at me. And he was a different person. It's like I could see that he could switch to this crazy person and said if there wasn't that 14-day waiting period for a gun, he would have had it right now and he could have killed me right now and then he would have killed himself.
That's what he said?
And he'd leave the kids with nobody.
Wow.
And I believed this. This
As well,
was
you should have.
frightening. I was just mortified. And so the next day, I actually stayed in bed. He went to sleep. I didn't even get up to pee that night because I was afraid if I stirred him, he'd
Yes.
be upset.
Right.
But I didn't want to leave because I had the 3 kids sleeping
Right.
in the house. So he got up and went to work, and I went to my therapist and told her what happened. And of course, she says, well, I'm calling the police because I have to.
Right.
And it was the best thing that we ever did. He actually admitted to the police that
He
he
said that.
said that. And he says, well, I'm sure everybody threatens to kill their wife at some point.
Oh.
So
Oh my.
he really believed he did it, but there was nothing wrong with it. And scaring me was, not a big deal. And
No, I didn't mean it's just words. We have a caller on the line. Do you want to take it now,
Sure.
or do you want to hold? Okay, caller, you're on the line. Hi, you're talking with Gloria and Michelle Penn.
Hi, I just wanted to call and say that I love listening to your interviews, Gloria, and I look forward to listening to more in the future.
Oh, well, thank you. What's your name?
My name is Beth.
Beth, thank you so much for calling in. That's really very encouraging. It's good to be back after a 2-week holiday break. How are you enjoying this interview with Michelle? Have you seen some of her work?
No, actually, I've never seen some of. I'm going to now that I saw. I loved the photos that have been shown. But I really enjoyed the interview just because I myself come from. I once was in an abusive relationship, and so
Oh man, I
I
don't
can
know if
relate
you
with that.
I don't know if you saw the last interview of December that's on my website, but it's with Casa. That would be a good one for you to tune into. And I'm really enjoying this interview with Michelle myself. And if you haven't checked out her website, I would definitely encourage you to take a look at some of those pictures. And I am so encouraged that you called. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I just wanted to, give some encouragement and then tell you how much I enjoy your show, and I look forward to more interviews this year. So
Great. Thank you so much. Well,
you're welcome. Good luck, ladies.
Thank you. Okay.
Nice.
Go back to what you were saying as far as like that was the smartest thing that the two of you ever did. So you left at that point, you and your kids just took off?
Yes, I went to a friend's house, and after school, brought the kids, and my parents flew down from New Jersey, and just from that moment on, it was over. And he tried to, as to talk his way out of it, and which he had done many, many times. But this this was it. I really hate for people to think they have to wait for that moment, though. I would have been nice to get out sooner
Right.
and to be stronger and to be more confident in myself. And I think more therapy would have done that. If was into any of these books, that would have helped. I didn't know Eckhart Tolle then. I didn't know anything about spirituality then. I had never read any of these books. The only book was The Verbally Abusive Relationship. So,
But you said something at the beginning of the show that bears repeating, and of course, I'm not quoting it verbatim, but you do really sometimes have to hit rock bottom. Your life has to sometimes fall apart before you can begin to put it back together. I know that happened in my life. It happened in everybody that I admire and respect. There's always a backstory, and I believe there's a friend of mine that's even on Facebook who I think everybody's story matters is something that she says. And that's true. Everybody has a personal story. And I think as we trudge through life, we kind of get used to this rut, that we have dug out for ourselves. And I wrote a book years ago called In Search of Peace, and is actually based on the 23rd Psalm from the perspective of a sheep. Like, why on earth are we called sheep? Why not dogs or, cattle or something? Why sheep? And as I studied sheep as a livestock, I was stunned at the similarities between human behavior and sheep. I mean,
wow.
Seriously, it's unbelievable. The herd instinct, the mob instinct, and how all you got to do is yell fire in a building and everybody will take off like a mob without anybody stopping to say, let's check this out and see if this is legit. So there's so many different similarities, and we'll stay in the same rut as sheep will do. They will graze the same ground until there's nothing left. And then they start eating poisonous stuff. And unless we're led somewhere else, and that makes me think of what you're talking about. Something has to happen in our lives that shakes us to our core and says, this is not what's best for you. This is not you. You said something earlier, too, about what happened to me. I love to dance, and I love to do this, and there's this creative side within you that you never got to discover because you got married and you kind of fell into that rut of what marriage is. And marriage is, well, you got to have kids, and then you got to have a house, and then you got to have a yard, and then you got to be a soccer mom, and you got to do all this and that. And I think more and more women, and I say women, not just out of a gender specific, but simply because women tend to be the ones that fall more into that rut of what we think society expects us to be, and we often lose ourselves. And when we do, we fall into that rut, and we start eating the poisonous stuff, and we're taking this stuff and thinking this is not healthy for me. And that, okay, so now you have this epiphany, and you come out of this, and then what? I mean, what was your first step of knowing, oh my gosh, I made the best decision.
It took a while, actually,
Okay.
because first I never saw myself as ever getting divorced. To me, you're married and you make it work.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just so worried about the kids and
Mhm.
how that was going to affect them. It actually was still tough after the divorce
Sure.
because he made it miserable.
Right.
And it was even worse, and the things he would do to the kids, and
Manipulation, emotional things.
absolutely, absolutely. And it was really, he was angry that he was found out,
Mm-hmm.
um and was embarrassed, I guess. He was very, very upset. So that anger I saw that night just really escalated through. I finally knew I had to leave the
The
state
state.
because he was hurting the kids, and promising things to them and then canceling, thinking it was going to hurt me,
Right.
but it was hurting them. So it really was the distance,
That helped.
and
That helped.
that really, really helped. I mean, it's amazing being in the same town or the same few towns really keeps you under their
Right.
thumb
Right.
and that control. So that was incredible. And it was by being down here that I was awakened and I was given the power of now from Eckhart Tolle. And that was the beginning of it. And this friend, Lori Rakowski, who's the one who hooked me up with the publisher to begin with,
Okay.
she called me and she said, you need to tell your story. You need to tell people that you were abused and you came out of that and you are grateful for that now because of who you are today.
Oh, kudos to that, because I know we've only got a couple of minutes here, and I swear I think I could talk to you for 2 more hours. I got so many things running through my head. But I agree. I think that you have such a powerful backstory to this, and again,
And I've written
in
that story in Dance in the Garden.
Dance in the Oh, you did?
Yes, it's about 6 or 7 pages, but everybody was asking me, "How did you get Eckhart Tolle to do this?"
Right, everybody was focusing on the big name talent, which is
Right.
Eckhart. But
So
let me tell you something. I am a sucker for, I don't want to say the underdog. I mean, I am, but I just, and I love Eckhart. I do. And all of these great gurus, and I mean, I grew up on them, and Wayne Dyer, and I love all of those. But I think that that potential, that spark is in all of us.
it is.
It is, and it's not just Eckhart. It's like, how did you get something to Eckhart, and Eckhart saying, how did I get something to Oprah? And it's like, these are people. This is the human. These are human beings. Okay, I mean, their status, yes, is up there, but that doesn't mean that the spark within us is not just as bright and just as powerful. And this story, just hearing this, is really, whoa, I can't even tell you what this is doing in my heart, just listening to your story. So basically, you're saying that you talk a lot about it
In the
in
beginning of
Dance
the
in the
book,
Garden. Okay.
I have about 6 or 7 pages of my journey to Eckhart Tolle
Okay.
and how I got there. But I wanted to do a book for people who didn't know Eckhart Tolle or couldn't relate to Eckhart Tolle.
Good.
So I wanted to use my flowers, but quotes from Abraham Lincoln and Albert Einstein and Helen Keller and Winston Churchill and, just a variety of
Mm-hmm.
inspirational, motivational quotes. Because really, that's my intention
Right.
through all of this is to inspire.
Yes.
And that's what my Facebook page is. I put my flowers with an inspirational quote, and the feedback I get is just gives me tingles that I am inspiring people and I am helping
Well, you
people.
are, because that's how you and I mean, that's how you came to be on the show.
Right.
Was
That's
because,
true.
I'd started a group. In fact, let me just mention real quick here before I go off air that on the 19th, Saturday the 19th, here in Clearwater, here at the studio, we may be going to a larger location. But for women only, we are having a get together called Tapping into Your Inner Power. And it's going to be very, very personalized, and it's a small group. And I want it to be a small group because there's some personal things that we're going to be doing as a group. And so anybody that's interested in doing that, you can go to my Facebook or you can go to my website actually and just register. And you have to reserve a seat, unfortunately, because we are limited so much on seating. But that's
I will reserve a seat.
yeah,
for
I think
sure.
and you know what? 90% of the people that are coming up are coming from Sarasota. I said I should have had this in Sarasota.
Wow.
So I'm going to have another one in Sarasota as soon as I can find a location. But
Good idea.
obviously, the studio here offers us conference rooms, so we don't have to pay for them or anything like that, which is why it's up here in Clearwater. But tell me real quick. I know we're really short on time, and I'm keeping an eye on my producer. But tell me the story behind your book, Faces That Inspire.
Well, Lori Rakowski decided what she would do is she would do a collaboration. She wanted stories of people who are on Facebook and who inspire people. That's what they do. We are on Facebook to uplift. And she wanted to write there's 33 authors.
Wow, I
And
didn't know
we
that.
each wrote our story about what happened to us, what made us who we are today, why we inspire others, and why our Facebook pages were so important to getting it out to the world.
Oh, I've got to read this. You did bring me copies,
I
right?
brought you. Well, I'm going
Oh,
to sign
are
all
you-
of those for you.
Are you going to do a part 2? There are so
no.
many. There are so many on Facebook that are very, very inspirational, and yours are too. I'm telling you, your pictures are phenomenal.
Thank you. I've met some incredible people through doing that, and I mean, I am blessed. And because of that, and because she had me write my story, that's what made me think to do Dance in the Garden,
Really?
because I already had my story.
Right.
So I thought, I'm going to publish that myself with my pictures, quotes. People are asking me, they want the story. Everyone's saying that the book, Faces Behind the Pages, was so
Inspirational.
I'm like, well, I need to put that story with the rest of my stuff. And that's where Dance in the Garden came from.
So tell me, in the last minute or two, what's next for Michelle Penn?
Well, actually, my newest thing with flowers, I meditate on flowers.
Mm-hmm.
I was out in my garden and nothing was in bloom. And I thought, there needs to be flowers out here, especially for people in the winter up north.
I know.
What could I do? And I investigated and I found somebody who has a patent on this process where I put my flowers on aluminum and they can hang on the wall outside. They are rust free. You can leave them outside all year long. And
Are you talking about just for Florida, or are you talking about anywhere?
anywhere?
Really?
Anywhere. Somebody from New Jersey ordered one and they have it hanging on their wall outside your house. People don't have beautiful things on the
Flowers.
walls outside their home.
Dead.
And I also have where I made a table, like a side table, and then you can take the legs off and hang it on the wall.
Oh, I saw
Or-
that. I saw the table. That is beautiful.
Thank
It was like
you.
the flower that we.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is
exactly.
gorgeous.
So people can feel that feeling when they're outside if nothing's in bloom and if they want to get that inner
Spring
peace.
feel. There's nothing like spring. It just speaks of new life and new beginnings. And spring was always. I'm from the Midwest, so spring was always my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. So
No,
finish
that's
on.
okay. So that is my new way of inspiring because I want people to be able to have my flowers. I did sell them. I have them in acrylic and I can do them on canvas and for inside the house, and they're beautiful. And
Mm-hmm.
I do them 30 by 30 or 10 by 10, whatever anybody wants. But it was this process. It's like the finish of a car. And it's so beautiful. The colors are so beautiful. And especially because I don't Photoshop. I want that really clear because I've
Very.
noticed a lot of people, they've done some beautiful work.
Mm-hmm.
but they enhanced the color here,
Yeah.
or they took out a little blemish here, or I really want people to see the flower as nature intended. And
Agree.
that's what you're going to feel. So it's real. It's not like you're looking at a fake picture.
Right. Even if it's got blemishes on it, it's okay.
Yes, there
it's
are.
still beautiful.
It's the flower, right?
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right. Well, Michelle, I'll tell you, I have so enjoyed this interview, and I'm so glad that you granted it to me, and I'm glad that our paths crossed. And
Me too.
I'm so excited for your future and for the new things that you've got coming up, and the new this story. I mean, I can't wait to read this. I'm so glad you brought these books because I really want to get into this one here. And Eckhart Tolle, of course, is one of my favorites as well. And I would love to have you back again. I mean, maybe
Sure.
in the spring or summer, if you've got something going on, I'd love to
It
have
would
you
be an
come back
honor.
on.
Because you inspire me.
I do.
That group that I was in where you were running it, the things that you posted touched my heart more than anybody that I've been in contact with on Facebook. You really have my soul. You have my spirit. It was like you knew me inside, and I felt such a connection with you
Aw.
because of what a good person you are, and
Oh my
where
God.
you come from, and where your heart is coming from. I really could feel that, and I had to comment on everything you ever did.
You did. You did, and I appreciate it.
And because it was true. I don't just do
Oh.
that. I don't think I just comment on everybody's thing. I don't. It was you.
Oh my gosh, I'm so touched by that because when I had to disband the and I'm waiting on our producer, so make sure you're giving me a thumbs up whenever we're starting to run out of time, okay? All right. What are we ready now? Oh, okay. Give me like 2 minutes, okay, whenever we're ready. Okay. We're kind of new. We got a new producer here, so we're trying to get each other's signals, but that's what tapping into your inner power is going to be. That's basically what we were doing on Facebook, but there's something very important about that one-on-one connection. And this is why I wanted to get a group together, and because the energy that you pick up from people, or at least for me, I mean, I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for everybody else, but the things that I would write about and put in that group were things that really spoke to me. And a lot of times, things that I would share, it would take me days to get myself composed. Maybe it was something that the universe, that God or spirit was showing to me about my own life. And then once I could get myself composed, then I would share this. And and I said that I started putting these things on my Facebook, and somebody said, "Gloria, you seem like you're always talking to me." And I said, I'm always talking to myself first, because anything that I share on my Facebook is something that I've experienced personally, or I've gone through, and I'm sharing it. These are not things that I grab from other people. These are things
That's
that
what
I've
makes it
actually,
even more inspiring.
yeah.
It does, because if you're talking to me and you're talking to that woman, you're obviously talking to each individual. They all think you're talking to them.
Oh gosh, well, that's very encouraging to hear, and I'm just so glad that our paths crossed. I mean,
Me too.
I miss Sarasota. I mean, I lived down there for quite a while. Actually, I lived there twice, and I still kind of call it my home. You know, I'm originally from Chicago, but Sarasota is kind of like my second home. And so I look forward to having you back. I'm so glad. If you just you're tuning out or getting ready to tune out, make sure that you realize that this is going to be podcasted. This will be on my website, talkinwithgloria.com. You can check it out, and Michelle's podcast will be there continuously, always. So you can always find it under her name. So thank you for tuning in. And tomorrow, for those of you that are tuning in right now, we have got elite body training tomorrow. And what's really great is that Mike is going to be our fitness on call, our fitness expert, and he's going to be coming back continually. And we're not going to be sitting behind a desk tomorrow night. You got to tune in. Mike's actually going to be showing us some exercises. I'm telling you, this man is kicking my butt all over the daggone county. And that's what I used to do. I don't know if you knew that.
No.
When I was in Chicago, I had a training business for 16 years. And this man, I'm telling you, he's stomping me. He's just
Wow.
well, I can't say no mercy because I never gave anybody. So, so I tell some of my former clients what's going on, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I couldn't even walk up the stairs. And they're like, you really expect us to feel sorry for you? So tomorrow night, the table's going to be gone, and you guys are going to be able to actually see Mike in action. He's going to show us some exercises where you may be doing the same exact thing at the gym or at home, but he's going to show you ways that you can burn more calories just by making a few little adjustments. I'm telling you, this is a show, and whenever Mike is on, you're not going to want to miss it because he's going to be bringing you some powerful information that's going to benefit you for this new year. Michelle, thank you again for coming up and joining me on the Talking with Gloria show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And if our producer's watching, I guess he's going to take us out now. So you guys have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow night at 6:30. Tune in.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in.
She has a wonderful personality. She really does.
You are listening to Talking with Gloria.
Let's take a walk on the wild side.
With your host, Gloria Ponziano.